All right, it is 1 o'clock. It is time for good news in parks. Are you guys ready for some good news? We are so excited. Hello, park people. We are so happy to welcome you to this episode, and a huge thank you to Julie Ivy and Ashley Armbruster. I hope I said your names correctly for those opening quotes. Keep them coming on the survey forums, as well as your idea for new show topics. We are so thankful to you all for your comments and insight. This is your show, and we want to make sure that we keep bringing you the good news that you want to hear. We're feeling cautiously optimistic about the future, and today's show is going to shed some light on planning for the future. We have a tremendous panel, and I cannot wait for you to meet them. So let me first introduce my co-host, Jody Adams, who's going to tell you all about them. Jody, happy Good News Day, my friend. Let's do this.
Cannot wait. We have a lot of information we're going to share with everybody today. Thank you, Anne-Marie. Let's go, panelists. I am going to introduce Kara Kish. Our first panelist we'll introduce is Director, Cincinnati Parks, Ohio. And she is the first woman Parks Director of Cincinnati Parks in over 200-year history. She also is a PhD candidate at Indiana State University, adjunct professor at Indiana State University. She's past president of Indiana Parks and Recreation Association, practitioner representative to the Council of Accreditation of Parks and Recreation Agencies. Then finally, I'm so tired. Oh my gosh. Kara is also a recipient of the NRPA Robert W. Crawford Outstanding Young Professionals Award, and she's an NRPA fellow and also past extern. Oh my gosh, Kara, I'm so glad you're on the show. I know you're humbled, but good to see you, and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. So excited to be here.
And oh my gosh, Sean Johnson, Director of City of University Park, Texas, Parks and Recreation, fellow American Academy of Parks and Recreation Administration. He's a board member of National Recreation Park Ethnic Minority Society, board member, Texas Recreation Park Society, board member, National Forum of Black Park Administrations and Administrators, CAPRA visitor, Council of Accreditation for Parks and Recreation Agencies, and again, past vice chair of Dallas Parks and Recreation Board. Sean, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Humbled and pleasure to be here to be able to share.
Great to have you. Bernita Reese. Oh my goodness, Bernita, I've been following you for years in your career. She is the new director, recent director appointed for City of Huntsville, Alabama, Parks and Recreation Department. She's past chair of the National Recreation Park Ethnic Minority Society, past board of trustees for Georgia Recreation Park Association. Do you get it, people? She was in Georgia. She's got a long history of being a top executive. Past board member, Ohio State University Life Sports Committee. She also is a past graduate of the NRPA Director School and currently chair of the Austin Community. Oh my gosh, Bernita, we've been wanting you on the show for a while. I'm so glad you're settled, and welcome to the show today.
Well, thank you for having me, and it's good to be Sweet Home Alabama.
You betcha. I love it. Congratulations again on being that new director. Way to go. You deserve it. All right, we got good news and national news. Got a lot of it. I'll try to fly right through it, but give you those key resources. We got some funding opportunities and resource opportunities that you all have asked for. So here we go. Colleagues, be paying attention to the new Biden-Harris administration conserving and restoring America the Beautiful. This just came out. It's a 10-year plan from the National Climate Task Force recommending a locally led campaign to conserve and restore our lands and waters upon which we all depend on and are all together on this in our societies. The 4 key areas of the federal government that are working on this are the U.S. Department of Interior, U.S. Department of Agriculture, U.S. Department of Commerce, and the Council on Environmental Quality out of the Executive Office of the President. The key is this new initiative is including our parklands, waters, and conservation projects at every level. That means you. That means you. And they're going to be implementing it at that local level. So go ahead and Google. In the chat, we have put these websites or the actual titles to Google. So Google Conserving and Restoring America the Beautiful, and you will link right into it. Second, NRPA has just published an eye-opening 2021 Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Report. Just came out. Key findings will be your agency activities, nationwide hiring practices and policies with the DEI, providing staff education and skill development, among others. So again, go to nrpa.org. Just came out. A really great report. Thank you, NRPA, again. And additionally, I want to let you know the updated, newly published, which a lot of us depend on, NRPA Agency Performance Review is out. Oh my gosh, I've looked at it for years, and that really guides us. And it will again guide you on number of residents per playground offered throughout your community, which is very helpful. Acreage of parkland per 1,000. It will all resident, sorry about that. And then your FTEs. What do you need in your FTEs per 10,000 residents? And then finally, and that again, you can go to nrpa.org. And then finally, too, the American Academy Parks and Recreation and the National Recreation and Park Ethnic Minority are both taking applications right now at no charge to the field practitioner to be a part of their mentorship programs. Take advantage of this. Some of our guests here are involved with this, and we can't encourage you enough to take advantage of this opportunity to be with top leaders in our field. Woo! Okay, folks, let's move on. First question, panelists, here we go. All righty. With summer around the corner, tell us about the summer spray parks, interactive fountains, and overall aquatics operations and programs. Part 2 of this question. What will be the biggest difference with your 2021 season compared to past summer interactive water features and general aquatics programming? So Sean, kick us off.
All right, thank you again for having me. We're super excited to be a part of this distinguished panel. And as we all are getting geared up for aquatic season, I'd be remiss not to give a huge shout out to our HR department for the city of University Park. And I know that those online share that sentiment with me, because getting aquatic staff ready for this pool season has been quite an endeavor. So thank you to Cherie Bontrager and her team here in the city of University Park. We have a outdoor family aquatic center here in University Park. And so we're getting geared up for that and talking with our elected officials. For those of you who don't know, Texas has reopened. And so there are zero restrictions on how we operate pools and facilities. And so we are still taking a very safe approach to how we open up this summer. And so a few of the things that we're looking at doing, because we are open and the sentiment of having restrictions have been made known by our elected body, we have restructured our operation schedule somewhat to first and foremost protect our most vulnerable population, that being that of our senior population. So we will start our day every morning with senior swim at 7 a.m. That way our seniors can come in, and they are coming in fresh to a fresh pool, to a that has not had the ingress and egress of the little ones coming in and out of the pool. So that takes place every morning at 7, and then we do our programs right after that. So our swim lessons, swim team, and our guided programs will take place during the block from 7 to 11 a.m. That way we can again have some controlled numbers on how many people come in, and there is a pre-registration requirement for that. And then we'll start open swim at 11 a.m. daily. And we have already had a huge response from our constituency. We opened up online registration, and within 3 hours we have 400 season passes. So,
Wow.
people are excited about getting back in the water, to say the least. Some of the other things we're doing operationally just to try to address and create safety is with consumer trends. We've had a lot of, all of us have been using Uber Eats, Grubhub, and those types of services. So we have created Uber Eats delivery stations at our pool.
Oh,
We have we'll have our concession stands open, but we do want to, let's try to find a way to stimulate our economy and get our residents to shop locally. So we've reached out to all of our local merchants here in University Park and let them know that we will have these delivery stations available. That way we can get those businesses who everyone has struggled over this past year. They can have more foot traffic and delivering food to our facility. And then we'll have that safe place for the food to be delivered in our Uber at our food delivery stations. They're at the pool. We also have cabana rentals and pavilion rentals at our pool. We're encouraging that, and the way to entice that, we're introducing a free towel service this year, this pool season. That way we want to encourage people to go ahead and make that reservation. That way we know how many patrons are coming in. It helps us out with head count. So that way we can know at all times. We'll have those groups set up, and it just kind of creates some more structure than the typical open swim, everybody come. So the pre-registration for that is also open. So those are just a few things we're doing in University Park to ensure safety of our patrons, but at the same time not have restrictions, if you will, and try to resume back to 2019 operations as safely as possible.
you know, Sean, isn't it amazing what all innovation and how much we've all learned? It's pretty amazing. Way to go. Way to take it and run with it. That is excellent. Kara, you've got a little different situation. Come on and chime in.
Well, we do, and I think my contribution will just be, I'm my esteemed panelist here. I mean, I'm already like mind blown with what Sean is describing, best practices, next practices, all of that. But here in Cincinnati, we're a little bit different. Our city actually has a separate recreation commission and a parks department. So our recreation commission here in Cincinnati, led by our director, Daniel Betts, really him and his team handle the heavy load of the community pools and the aquatic centers. So what we have in the Cincinnati Parks, primarily in some of our signature parks, are just interactive water fountains. And kind of that innovative and creative approach that needed to be implemented last year is absent. It's really interesting. We've had an incredibly close relationship with our health department. Like every time a governor's orders comes down is how do we implement this? What are we doing? Last year, there were barriers, there were timed admissions, there were, all of this control and absent. Even our governor just came out yesterday and announced that come June 2nd, like all health orders are lifted, even social distancing orders. So I actually had a conversation with my team this morning, and we're still going to do it. We're still going to put the concrete blazes on there. We're still going to have signage up that says, keep your distance. It's going above and beyond the orders that were required, but we think it's still going to be good practice. So bizarre to have an environment like last year where everything was different, everything was turned up on end, and these incredible constraints that we had, and then it's all gone. So we're looking in terms of our practice in the interactive water fountains, just to make sure that there's a presence and an awareness of taking care of each other.
Wow. I think you're pretty smart doing what you're doing. I would keep some of those in tow. Way to go. I think that's very smart on your part. Okay, but Bernita, take us home on this one. We know you're doing dynamic things.
Well, I tell you, the city of Huntsville, we have a spectacular aquatic center, which is over 5,600 square feet. Within that, we have a seating capacity of over 1,400 individuals that can come in and watch any swim meet. There's 3 different pools within this one center, 1 therapeutic pool, and then 2 competitive pools. However, one of the pools have a retractable roofing. So we're able to open it up to outdoor during our summer months. And once summer ends, we close it and put that roofing back on. And then we have 3 indoor pools at this one particular center. Some of the activities that go on there is your free swim and your swim lessons, water polo. We do partner with our high schools. There's over 16 high schools that compete at a aquatics level, and that is for different swim meets. We also reach out to our Paralympics team, and we offer Paralympic clinics, and that is at the aquatic centers. So there's several different water exercise classes that go on. And then we have an additional pool. It's also indoor. It's at one of our community centers, and we call it the Showers Pool. They offer lap swim there along with swim lessons. But the one thing that they offer that I think is really unique is scuba diving classes.
Wow.
And so they're offering that over at Showers Pool. And that's some of the things that are going on at our pools. Throughout the city, we have 3 splash pads. And then some of the things that took place last year comparison to this year. Last year within our aquatic center, we stayed open. That was one of the advantages that we did do in 2020. However, we put capacity limits on a lot of our classes, capacity limits on a lot of the activities that took place, and made sure we kept social distance. And if you were not competing, definitely wearing your mask. And so, but we were able to remain open. One thing that we didn't do, and that was no swim lessons. So we did eliminate the swim lessons, which we have just picked back up our swim lessons. So our community is excited. They're so excited about water activities, as look, our panelists have said with me. One of the other things, and that is the splash pad. Last year, we had to put out staffing to monitor exactly what was going on at those splash pads. However, this year, we're going back to, if I had to say, our 2019, what it looked like, and that is we're able to open those up without any staffing being on site. So we are full gear of aquatics here in Alabama, and we have a big competition this weekend. It's and it's probably 300 to 400 people we're expecting in this swim meet. So we are definitely looking forward to aquatics.
Well, Bernita, that's one reason we even had you kind of wind us up. I know you have extensive aquatics. And here's the deal. Listen to your panelists today, everyone out there. They have embraced it to open up full force. You are listening to the best addressing to open up everything in their system. And you will hear that throughout the whole show. I'm going to turn it over to you, Anne-Marie, because we've got some great poll questions today.
We absolutely do. And the first one actually has to do with what we've just talked about. So we want to hear from you in our audience regarding your aquatic facilities. Are they fully open? Are they open on a reduced basis? Are they still closed? Or some of you don't have aquatic facilities. So and let us know that as well. We know that that isn't the case at every park. So if you don't have aquatic facilities, that's fine. But for those who do, we really want to know kind of where you're at in this process. Are you fully open? Have you opened on a reduced basis? Or we know there's some out there that are still closed. So several of you still voting. We're going to give you a few more minutes to do that. I can see those numbers ticking away. So love it when a lot of people respond. As you know, the Q&A that you guys submit and your questions and how you respond to the different questions are where we get a lot of the material for future shows. So we'll give you just a couple more seconds. We're going to close this one in 3, 2, 1. Let's end the poll and we will share the results with you. So fully open is the majority, but just by a really small margin, 39 versus 38%. Some still closed, and several of you don't have aquatic facilities. So really interesting to see that that open and opened on a reduced basis is a majority, and I think that's probably a great news. I know I have a daughter-in-law who's an avid swimmer, and she is thrilled that the facility near her has opened up again. So thank you so much for that. We'll have some more polls for you later. Jody, I'm going to send it back to you.
All righty. Question number 2. NRPA just came out with the diversity, equity, and inclusion report that I mentioned earlier, highlighting key findings to help our field professionals navigate and champion through important aspects of our society. How is your Parks and Recreation Department implementing strategies to address these important, impactful factors on our society and your community? So let's start with Kara. Chime in.
Very good. Well, I'm happy to say that we are doing so many things, but for the purposes of this panel, I really would like to kind of be real about the fact that we spent a lot of 2020 looking internally. You mentioned the equity report and just looking at hiring practices and your general practices for employment. And we needed that hard look internally. And one of the things that one of the things I'm most proud of is that kind of spawned in my head, but it really was my team, our city, who began to be champions of this effort. Was we removed a historical barrier within our management system that had a really unfair requirement for a mid-management level position. So we had individuals who were spending 20, 30 years with us who had the skill sets and the abilities to be mid-managers, but because of an education requirement, a fairly steep education requirement for the history of parks, like this was a historical barrier. That internal look, coupled with the impacts of COVID, which in the city of Cincinnati led to an early retirement program. We had an incredible amount of our senior leaders leaving our organization, and we are just completing kind of the full implementation of the promotions. And I am so excited to say that every single promotion that we've given was an internal promotion. People are excited. They are starting to participate in our workforce in a way where they see that there is a path for them to get into mid-management and even into senior level management, but it didn't exist before. So there was a culture in our organization that there was a level you could rise to, and that was it. I am so proud that we removed this historic barrier. We got a little bit of impact from it just over the next 5 years as retirements continue and people leave our organization. I'm just so excited to see how this ripple effect continues. It brings me a lot of joy. Another thing I'm really proud of is kind of full force effort from our GIS team to conduct some geographic evaluations, looking at the equity, accessibility of assets within our community. So look, this is above my pay grade. Like, I don't even understand all of it, but I mean, they're creating layers on maps that are showing where our assets are. They're overlaying it with all of the demographic data, inclusion data, access data, and we're gonna really dig into that very soon here and make some strategic decisions about where we're doing our capital planning. I mean, everything from where do you put a new bench to where do you, construct an inclusive playground, that level of detail to answer for these questions, to answer for the inclusivity, to answer for the equity, to have that data. Like I said, I'm excited to dig into it with my team, and they're hard at work doing all the coding or whatever it is that they're doing, but it's going to transform the way that we make decisions for our assets.
Well, as a leader, you have surrounded yourself, obviously, with some of the most smart by dynamic professionals that can really work through that. And that is just, wow. I mean, you know, I'm glad you talked about it in detail, because really folks out there depend on the Cincinnatis to lead you, because they'll share. Carrie, we've talked about that. They'll share with you at where they're going on this, because again, we're all working together on this to get through, but we've got to get better. All right, let's go over to Bernita. Bernita, go ahead.
All right. If I had to talk about just the diversity, equity, and inclusion, you know, it's one thing to look at it from a broad standpoint, but when you start looking locally, what are we doing right here in Huntsville? First of all, being the first woman, the first Black woman to be hired as director here in the city of Huntsville over Park and Recreation. It's definitely a diverse workforce that they actually looked at and reached out to. And then when you start to look within the community, how are we being equitable throughout the city? And that is playgrounds and community centers and amphitheaters and our parks and trail systems. It's some of those little things that we're really doing that are different. Within this year, we're doing a training series, and that training series will consist of why they matter. They being the people of the community, different cultures, and that is Hispanic and Asian and African American and Caucasian. And so, you know, it's not leaving anyone out, but it's bringing everybody to the table. And then the other is that we hear all the time, and that is implicit bias, but it's implicit bias in our everyday life. How do we look at it every day? Some of those things that maybe we go into the grocery store, we're looking at things differently. We're in our parks looking at things differently. We're at our centers as staff looking at people differently as they come into our facilities. So making sure that we are trained and we're able to serve and work with people from all backgrounds. Some of the events that we're doing, and one that I thought was really, really unique, and that is kite flying, and it's soaring for social justice. And a lot of the organizations that are here in the community, they're bringing out and they have literature and they're talking about their organizations and how they're making a difference, the LGBTQ community. And then they have a kite that they fly above their area and their vended tent that they're actually doing. And so it's those organizations and the faith-based organizations and different you know, corporate organizations that are coming out. And so it's soaring for social distance. And then we're kicking off our Black Arts Festival in June. And so also dancing for diversity. The Indian culture and the Hispanic culture and the Latino culture. And so we're bringing all of them together on different dances, but not them just performing the dances. It's also everybody that's in the park now taking part of that culture and learning the different ethnic backgrounds. And then I couldn't, you know, go without talking about our adaptive programming, and that is inclusivity, and that is bringing in the different individuals in that playground and miracle leagues and Special Olympics, and how we're making sure that they're part of the community, not leaving anyone out, because it's so important that people feel a part of the community, not just living in the community, but being actual part of the community. And then something that we're looking at within the next 12 months, and that is actually implementing a DEI policy for the department, not just citywide. The citywide has a policy, but now we're looking internally within our department. How do we actually make a difference here right within the department? So those are some of the things that we're doing when we're talking about the DE&I, and I think it ties right in line with NRPA and what they're looking for as far as recreation departments and how we're moving forward to make a difference.
Embracement, leadership, engagement. Oh my gosh, at the highest and the best level. I'm sitting here listening to you and Kara talking about your workforces, making sure and taking nothing for granted. Way to go, and way to take down any barrier of that learning and engagement. Sean, take us home on this one.
It's hard to follow these two ladies. I
Boy,
promise you, you got some very dynamic things going on in your agencies. As you mentioned earlier, Jody, I was fortunate. I like to use the term blessed more so to be added to the American Academy of Parks and Recreation Administration class of 2020. And
yes.
I instantly jumped right in, and I am a member of the JEDI Task Force, which is Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion.
Mhm.
And coming to the city of University Park, I am the first African-American male department head in the organization. And so
Love it.
kudos to our city manager and his team, and the mayor and city council. And so coming in, being new to the organization, of course, it was noticeable that I was, but I promise you, you could not tell by the way the workforce interacts with one another. But some of the things that we have implemented, and then working closely with our HR department, is our interview questions. But even before our interview questions, our interview panels. Some things that we take for granted sometimes, we do the traditional, let's get the top 3 positions in our department. Well, we went a little further in our department with some recent hirings, and we had representation from our IT department. We had representation from our public works department, and making certain that we had diverse cultures, ethnic backgrounds, and even genders. That way we have a diverse panel, as well as some of the questions that we ask, or if you were to create a cultural program in our in our city, what would that look like? So we're making it known to our applicants that, hey, we embrace different cultures. The city of University Park is also undergoing a centennial plan, which is our comprehensive plan for our city. And so the citizen surveys we received as far as recreation programming, park amenities and park facilities were overwhelming, because the demographic and ages have changed in University Park so much. So we have a good benchmark of information, empirical data to work from, to create that continuum and add some of the things that we're doing with the JEDI Task Force as far as our programming is concerned, internally and yet externally, how we recruit, how we retain, and how do we create awareness of justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion. So it's exciting times here for us in University Park as well.
Sean, I've always admired you. You always walk the talk. You just don't talk about it. You're an implementer, and you have courage, and way to go, because all 3 of you have courage doing what you're doing. Actually, I don't mind. I'm almost about to cry about this, because we've come so far and still have so far to go, but you are the leaders. And this was so important to ask you this question, all of you. Oh, wow. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to you. And I know, Anne-Marie, this takes you back. It's all yours, Anne-Marie. We're into the poll questions.
Okay, great. And we actually want to hear the same question from you. So I'm going to go ahead and launch this poll. Everybody's talking a lot about JEDI. So we want to know, how is your park and recreation department implementing JEDI? Check all that apply. We want to hear, there's lots of different ways. In your comprehensive and master planning, are you looking at it from the absolute root in that master plan to make sure that it's included, in programming, planning, different programs that you're offering? What about in scheduling capital and rehabilitation projects in areas that need it? Looking at the 10-minute walk to a park assessment and planning around that, and making sure that there are parks in, communities that maybe don't have parks, and thinking about equality from that way. Are you looking at applying for grants to help with this, or something else? There's a lot of different ways out there. So if you have another implementation plan or something that you're doing, we would love it if you would share that in the chat, question and answer box, and let us know what you're doing if what you're doing around that is not mentioned. But certainly it's so important, and it's so exciting to see this getting attention. It's way too many years too late. And I'm with you, Jody. It starts getting me choked up when I think about the focus that this is finally getting as an important,
Yes.
an important initiative. So the voting is slowing down. We're going to give you about 3, 2, 1, and let's go ahead and end the poll and share the results. And this is interesting. So I loved it. A lot of programming planning going on. I think that's probably, in some of the bigger things that need to get done out there, that's maybe one that's a little bit easier and, faster to accomplish. You can add programming right away, but really great to see so much going on in comprehensive and master planning. I mean, that's certainly where it starts, right? And, great percentage of you, 65% is agreeing with that as well. Some rehabilitation and capital project scheduling, and some other things. And again, remember, if you have some other things, we see 13% of you are doing other things. We'd love to know what those are. Just take a minute and type that in the chat box so that we can be aware of that. And, undoubtedly we will have a show in the future devoted to this topic. So we want to hear from you. What's important to you and what are you doing out there that we can capitalize on? So thank you so much. And Jody, I'll turn it back to you.
And we will keep driving. We will keep driving. All right, question number 3. Due to the pandemic and the dramatic increase of your outdoor park usage across our nation's park systems, with your non-charge park areas, what adjustments, improvements, or realignments are you making with your future park operations and developments? And let's start off with you, Bernita. Please just go for it, because we have some non-charge areas that we need to address today.
So, when we look at our non-charge areas here in the city of Huntsville, we have currently over 73 miles of existing greenways. Within the next year to 2 years, we're looking at adding an additional 44 miles of greenways. So, as I began my approach into the city of Huntsville, all I could see was people skating and biking and walking on greenways and really out and being active. Earlier this month, we had a chance to participate in a mayor's bike ride. And we had almost close to 200 people participating in that bike ride. And so people are ready and eager to get out and really enjoy just some of those activities. Some of the other things, and everybody knows because everybody's experienced this, I think, in recreation, that's pickleball. So we're adding more pickleball courts to our park systems. And so those are some of the things we're doing right now. We're currently surveying the residents here within the city for our additional skate park. It's our second skate park that we're looking at here in Huntsville. So that's a new one. We have put upgrades to our playgrounds and adding in different slides and different features to our playgrounds. So really looking at that, looking at additional parks even coming on board. We had a donation just here recently of a new park that we're looking at, and it will open probably later this year or early next year. However, within the last 2 years, this year and last year, we've had over $15 million in capital improvement projects. And so when we talk about, some of those free amenities that people are able to use, we have a golf course that was converted to a cross-country course. And so when you talk about what can you do with golf courses, that was one that we looked at, and that conversion consisted of a 5 and an 8 and a 10K that now not just local users can use, but also high schoolers can use and colleges can use. And then within the golf course and on the high ends of it, we also put in a mountain bike trail. And so those are things that people are able to take their bikes out and use. And so these are 2 major completions that were just done this year. So when we start to look at some of those free, I would say outreach amenities that we have here in the city, that's definitely some things that people in the city of Huntsville can get out and enjoy.
Wow, that is tremendous on the improvements that have been going on just kind of quietly behind the scenes because you're a dynamic department anyway. But
Thank
oh my
you.
gosh.
It is.
And I promise I did not pay Bernita to say this about pickleball. You all know, a lot of you, that I play pickleball and I instruct pickleball. And I'm a tennis player, but honestly, I do want to, actually, now that you brought that up, I just found out yesterday, USTA and US Pickleball are getting together. They're going to be working together. So I think the reason I'm mentioning that, I've had a lot of colleagues get a hold of me and say, what do we do about this? Because we need to work together. Well, guess what, everyone, they're going to be working together. So just a little trivia tidbit there. Okay, let's, Sean, go ahead. Let's keep mowing.
Wow. Hey, I tell you that question is right on time. The city of University Park is about 4 square miles. However, it's 25,000 in population. So there's a lot of people in a little space. And so having to really maximize partnerships and opportunities was something that I was faced with coming on board. And so one of the first things we had to look at was how we're using our outdoor space. And so because we don't have any more space to go create, how do we leverage our resources and our existing partnerships with the ISD? And so we began conversations with them. And so we have expanded our interlocal agreement where we're putting structured athletic leagues on HPISD school sites. That way we have those structured practices.
Excellent.
And those types of programs taking place after school hours, not impacting the operations of the school. And that frees up space for us, for our everyday constituents to use the parks. Also, we had to take a look at our outdoor contract fee instructors. It was not a problem before, but because of COVID-19 and the amount of people wanting to congregate in our parks, we had to adjust how we assessed permits for individuals to conduct commercial fitness programs. And so it started out with an awareness campaign of just putting portable signage throughout our park system that we move around in hotspots, educating the instructors of the process, becoming a registered vendor, and that way we can designate that reservable space for you. So throughout this process as well, we created more reservable space, and then those free areas. One in particular, over our most popular place is over at Gore Park by our City Hall, heavily populated area, but we have not been reserving that space because we want to have it for just citizens to come out and just do a pickup game with their son, daughter, so forth. Lay on the lawn on a blanket. So the education component was key, as well as putting those instructors in defined places at defined times. Not that we were trying to restrict their activity, but how do we create more activity, more open space for our constituency to use in unstructured programming? We also did a very dynamic thing. We have one hotel in the city of University Park. And again, we're home of Southern Methodist University. If all of you are familiar with SMU, Eric Dickerson, some of that old regime.
Yeah.
And so we have a great partnership with them as well. But there's one hotel here in the city of University Park. So we've partnered with the hotel, and we've provided recreation rooftop terrace programming. So we have rooftop terrace yoga taking place at
I
our
love
hotel. And it's overlooking the McFarland Auditorium here in University Park. So you see the skyline of Dallas, you see the skyline of SMU campus. And so we're creating recreation space throughout our city and our retail areas. And we also have a development being done, our Snyder Plaza. And so there are conceptual designs for placemaking and kind of a passive recreation area in our retail areas. So maximizing those type of opportunities. But first and foremost, we had to look at who's using our parks, and let's put like activities in areas that they fit best. And so the partnership with the school district was huge. Being able to increase recreation programming at the hotel, getting more people to go to the hotel for staycations, just learn more about what's here. And then how do we use parks and recreation as economic development? Start programming within our retail areas and thinking about that moving forward with our future development with complete streets and how we create those open spaces in retail areas.
Dynamic, absolutely dynamic. I tell you, folks, if you're not getting a lot of information today from all three of these panelists on innovation and just the growth of our departments and how you're addressing parks and recreation today is amazing. Way to go, all three of you. Anne-Marie, with that said, let's move to one of our favorite times in this show because they deserve it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's take a look at our recognition. This is absolutely one of our most favorite times. This is when we get our panelists to recognize someone or some folks on their team, and we call it Good News in Parks about great people. So without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at that. And we're going to start out with Bernita.
I tell you, here in Huntsville, as we serve as the Rocket City in the state of Alabama, we have stars, and you see that big star up there. That's our logo. So we've got stars within our department. And this is the administrative team. And so if I had to put it any better, this was the one team that really worked as essential workers during the pandemic. When the pandemic first hit, this was a time where they stayed on the job. They made sure signage got out. They made sure that the center staff stayed home. These individuals came into work and worked every day. And so they were the ones to make sure that the operations of recreation stay current, putting out social media information and making sure that information was given to the residents on our closures and on our openings and what we were actually doing within the city. And so I appreciate this particular team here. They, if I had to say, they were the ones that made sure the bills got paid during that time. And the aquatic center, as I mentioned earlier, stayed open, and we have our aquatic superintendent here. We've got our sports superintendent here with his team, and then also our personnel HR person and our social media person. So kudos to this great team. And then I can't forget, I was going to leave out, I forgot this young man. He's back on that back row, Sam, who is our playground inspector, and he was still out. Safety is our number one priority, making sure that we have everyone being taken care of when they were still going out to playgrounds as though we were closed. But they were still removing closure tapes and going out to playgrounds. And he was making sure that we were still having a safe area for children and adults to play. So kudos to the Huntsville administrative team.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's terrific news. Sean, let's hear about your nominee.
All right. Well, I am just pleased and tickled to death to be able to recognize our Parks Superintendent, Mrs. Ann Allen. And if you've met her once, you've talked to her a million times. She is the life of the party everywhere you go. I recall when I went through the interview process, she was part of the panel that toured us around. But I just can't say enough good things about Miss Allen and what she brings to the table. She, if it grows, she knows about it. I promise you. She LSU graduate degree, and you name it, she has it. But she has a knack for people, and to get the respect that she gets from her guys. And she doesn't demand it; she commands it. She's out there with them. We during the pandemic, out there making certain that they have everything they need. We had a recent storm here in Texas. You all may have heard about it. Called it Snowvid 21. It was first ever in the state of Texas, the amount of damage we had. But we all deployed, all our departments deployed together and assisted Public Works with water main breaks and cutoffs and so forth. And look up, and here is Miss Ann Allen. She's getting meals and taking meals to the guys out on property. While they're 6 feet deep in holes repairing water main breaks, just because the infrastructure, we took a huge hit here in University Park with the winter storm. But to see that high level of energy, that smile, just that engaging spirit, whoever's new on board, if you're in a department across town, you will know her within the first 48 hours of being employed. She just embodies teamwork and just high energy. And even post-storm, we're still addressing replacing plant material and so forth. But she I promise you, she does not sleep. So thank you, Ann Allen, for what you bring to the team. You are a breath of fresh air every morning to come to work.
Wow, that is absolutely awesome. I can't wait to meet her. She sounds like a wonderful person. Thank you so much for sharing that. All right, go ahead, Kara, and close us out. Tell us about Jenny.
Oh, I am so thrilled to introduce you all to Jenny Mobley. Jenny is my deputy director, and honestly, the easiest decision I've ever made in my career was to promote her into this position. I have been with the city of Cincinnati for about 2 years, and we have gone through a massive restructuring. One of the reasons to do that was to eliminate some historic silos that existed within our organization. And what we've done under a deputy director is condense the entirety of our operations under Jenny. So she's overseeing our maintenance crew, she's overseeing our facilities teams, all of our events that we put on. It is on her shoulders, and she bears the weight like with such grace. She's so effective, dynamic, thoughtful. And one of the key things about Jenny, and look, I will continue to advocate for new leadership and new ideas coming in, but there are some things that equity you can't bring in, and that is Jenny has served with the city of Cincinnati since 1996 as the leader of our operations team, which is over 90% of our staff. They inherently trust her. They inherently believe in her. She is their leader without effort. And I just could not say enough incredible things about her. A lot of you will understand, I love the relationship that deputy directors have with each other. She's like magic. She works with the deputy directors of public works and our assistant police chiefs and is able to produce these incredible recommendations for us as directors to grapple with and make the final decisions on. Without question, she is one of the reasons that we're having cultural change within our organization. And I just could not be more thrilled or proud to serve alongside her.
Oh, that's awesome. And wow, 1996. So happy 25th anniversary, Jenny. That's amazing. 25th. Congratulations. All right, we have a final poll question for you guys. So we'll go ahead and launch that right now. And what we would like to know is just simply, what are you guys going to be adding or giving focus to in the next 24 months? We see a lot of trend reports out there from a variety of different areas. NRPA does one. I know there's several others that do one. And so these are a lot of the common threads that we saw on those. So is it nutrition programs, pickleball? I mean, we're hearing so much about pickleball, esports, climate focused programs, virtual programming, live streaming of park events. So kind of continuing the virtual and live streaming that have been so critical, but now for people who maybe can't get out or aren't near the park where these things are happening, I know I've heard of some that are going to continue that. Multi-generational programming, another big trend out there, doing things that are attractive to the whole family so that the family unit is playing and staying together. Recycling programs, or adding or expanding Wi-Fi in the park. That's another one that's been really popular, especially with the pandemic, as people are trying to add places for even for kids to stay in touch with school so they can come to the park and do their schoolwork that way. So a lot of different responses there. See a lot of voting still going on. Really interesting. We're going to give this one just about 5 more seconds. So if you haven't voted yet, please do. And we'll go ahead and close that one in 3, 2, 1. And let's share the results with you all. Well, pickleball, I suppose that shouldn't be a surprise. I will tell you, 2 or 3 years ago, I never even heard of pickleball. And now I have friends that compete in pickleball leagues. I know it's a really popular thing. So I guess that is not a surprise. I think the next one, multi-generational programming, another really big trend. And I love that. I love the idea of, families coming to the park and kind of doing things together rather than maybe everybody splitting off and doing separate things. So that's really good to see. And a lot of interest in some of the other ones. So thank you so much for voting on that. If you have any other thoughts, of course, you're always willing to, or always welcome to put those in the chat. We love hearing from you guys. And again, we say this all the time, but I just want to remind you that a lot of the ideas that we get for the show come from you. They come from you. We want to make sure that this is an important thing for you. So question and answers. Let's see what we got out there. Actually, a lot more comments this time than questions. So there have been some great comments from folks out there that know our panelist. Carolyn says, Sean, you always make me proud. I know you're rocking it. That's great. I think Cynthia makes an interesting comment about the aquatics thing, and that, it's a national challenge right now to find employees, especially part-time flex season staff and lifeguards. And that is a great point. So Vonda out there says that for DEI, they're doing a lot of strategic neighborhood marketing using multiple media outlets, yard signs, postcards, social media, and call-in phone numbers for registration, participation, all fabulous ideas. Patricia suggests that on your golf courses, besides golf, try Frisbee golf. I have tried Frisbee golf, and that is a lot of fun. I'm terrible at it, I will tell you that, but it is definitely a lot of fun. Karen, shout out to Ms. Reese. She is born and raised in Huntsville and is proud of you, wants to give you a shout out. And Bruce says, go Mustangs. My dad was an SMU alumni. So I love that. Lots of fun things out there going on. We are going to share some information with you now. Let me get to my share screen here because we want to tell you about what is coming up. There's some really good information coming up, and I know that a lot of you have shared. Let me see if I can find this here.
Well, and Anne-Marie, I've got a quick question while you are getting ready to ramp that up.
Yeah.
This recruitment is a very serious situation right now. And I'm hearing that locally here with city, county parks, but all different levels of hiring for summer. Do you all have anything that you would say you've done different or you've ramped up to actually start or increase your recruitment? Could
Great.
you share that? And
Yeah.
it's just open. I'm not going to call on you. Just chime in.
I know one of the things we did is we began recruitment in November of last year. We went
Okay.
ahead and started then. I failed to mention we do have a great partnership with the Park Cities YMCA here
Great.
because our pool is seasonal, and so we began our certification programs in January. So being able to again leverage resources and partner with the YMCA, and I gave a shout out to our HR director already. We began advertising and posting positions in November, getting returning guards and staff back on board before the holidays, and tried to even have a certification course during Christmas break. Wasn't very
Smart.
successful in that effort, but we kind of anticipated being here in Texas and Texas reopening that we would have some challenges. So it was a collective effort, but we were able to start prior to the beginning of the new year.
Smart. Anyone else want to chime in?
If I had to say, I think our partnership with the high school when it comes to aquatics has been an advantage we've been able to really, I think, take a benefit to, and that is having those young swimmers that are in high school become an active part in lifeguarding. And because we do operate year round, we get a lot of high schoolers that are now able to become our lifeguards. And so that's been a benefit for us. And that is working with the high school swim associations throughout the year on them actually becoming lifeguards and certified. Yeah.
Well, that's great. And Kara, I want to go back to this just real quick. And Anne-Marie, I will come right back to you.
Sure.
But Kara, this deal that you have done on promotions and opening all that up that has been something that so many of us have worked on over the years, and you have made that happen. That is so important when you have such fantastic, dynamic people that have learned on the job or gone out and get extra training. Just a couple more comments on that, because I want to encourage departments to really address that with their HR departments.
Well, it's fundamentally changed the culture within our organization. There was a sense of finality to kind of this very low level management position that was kind of the apex that you could reach if you didn't have a 4-year degree. Not to mention some of the management positions above it said 4-year or equivalent. It was ridiculous. It was, there were no efforts previous to address this. And honestly, I don't know that if anybody was having the conversation. The staff certainly wasn't motivated, or the employees weren't motivated to have the conversation, because it was it just never happened. It was never going to happen for them. So in our highest kind of mid-management position, or it's probably more of a senior level management position, we had one person out of a staff of 200. We had one person that was qualified. Once we changed this dynamic, we had 30 that were qualified. We had 15 that applied, and then that existed, and you saw that motivational level change, because when we restructured, Jenny Mobley was our first appointee. We moved down into division management. We moved down into regional management, and it has gone all the way down to our labor force. The amount of people who were applying for those promotional positions saw the ability for that upward level progression. It has fundamentally changed the dynamic, and it's only going to continue to increase. So our greatest challenge right now that we're looking at as management, now that we've removed this historical barrier, is to make sure that our teams are as prepared as they possibly can to be successful in those new roles. So we've kind of, in addition to that removal of that historical barrier, one of the things we said is everybody needs to know how to do their boss's job. Like,
right.
Hands down, you need to know how to do it, so that in a temporary situation or in a promotional opportunity, we've prepared you to the best of our ability to be an exceptional candidate. And so yeah, it's changed. It's really exciting. When we get a lot of questions about how are we, changing the face of our organization, it's going to have a long-term impact.
Well, you can speak to this because you have been at every level of academic success of the degree. And I am very proud of you leading this effort. And I hope more and more people are listening to you on this way to address it and have courage. Thank you so much. Anne-Marie, back to you.
Absolutely. That's exciting. I mean, we've gotten a couple more comments just thanking you guys for your innovation.
They love you. I know. I've been watching this face.
Such great thinkers and such great information. And, it's a great segue into kind of a new feature that we have just launched. And this is a question that you guys will see on your surveys. We want to know about your good news. And we talked about this in the last show. If you have good news going on in your community, share it with us. Send us some pictures. Tell us what's going on. Be sure to share your name and information. But we've added that to learn kind of what's happening in your department. So also, I want to let you know at the end of this section, I'm going to have that QR code ready for the survey if you want to take it right away. So have your phones ready so you can screenshot that and take it right away. But we have some really good stories to share today. So this is the first one. Vonda Martin with the City of Greensboro, North Carolina, shared that they have added the first fully inclusive playground to their system. It's called the Up in the Air Playground, air standing for adaptive and inclusive recreation. And it's a national demonstration site for inclusion. It is the largest inclusive playground west of Raleigh, North Carolina. And it's a real one-of-a-kind design. And there's some really cool things here. These whirls, I don't know if you can tell in that bottom section. And she sent a really cute video there. Unfortunately, I can't connect to that from this, but if you go to GSO Parks and Rec on their Facebook page and look at their videos, you can watch this video for yourself. But that whirl in the bottom center is actually set flush with that port in place surfacing so that kids who use mobility devices can just roll on up on that and use a whirl. I mean, that is just so exciting to me. And you can see this little bouncer rocker that's in the lower left there where, you know, maybe children who don't have the means to support their body, they're able to sit there and use that and use kind of a seesaw mechanism. There's a roller slide. There's all kinds of crazy and fun sensory play opportunities. So what a neat playground. And we just wanted to share that with you. And congratulations, you know, Vonda and Greensboro for your forward thinking, for thinking about all kids to ensure that everybody can play equally together. And congratulations, we just love that story. And certainly is good news that we want to share.
And Anne-Marie, their gold medal, that, you know, get a hold of this department. They are leaders. They have been there for many years and the best of the best, but boy, take advantage of them. They are so dynamic. So anyway.
Very cool. The other one is from Brenda Iraola. And Brenda, I hope I didn't just slaughter your name, but she works for the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission. And she came up with a really cute idea for unique playgrounds. So they call these imagination playgrounds. And they have put together this Imagination Playgrounds passport booklet. They've printed 18,000 copies of this thing for
Wow.
schools, daycare providers, facilities, and it's based on the Passport to National Parks concept. So if you've seen that concept, it's basically a booklet that tells you about all of the national parks. They've taken that concept and done this booklet for their playgrounds. So like the National Passport or the National Parks passports, this has maps, descriptions, amenities, accessibility features. There's images of each of the playgrounds so that visitors can research it prior to their visit. It also shows the locations on that map of the 26 Imagination Playgrounds with fun cartoon graphics and symbols. And you can see, I just took a few pages out of the book there, all the different themes. There's a pirate ship playground and a parkour park and a little critter playground and this woodland wonderland that has these fun little ants marching across the playground.
I love it.
Big ant sculptures that kids can climb on and play on. So super clever. I mean, I just love this. There's 26 playgrounds and they're all different. So you can find ones that are close to you or on a bus route close to you and visit those. So thank you so much for sharing that, Brenda. We absolutely love that concept. So we want to keep sharing good news. So remember, in your survey, please let us know. That is the scan right there for today's survey for today's show. So if you have your smartphone with the camera, you can just scan that and go to that survey right away. Let us know what's happening. We want to share your good news. There's so much great stuff happening out there. So tell us what's happening along with your park department, in your community, along with your name, maybe a link that we can find some photos. We'll put the slides together. We don't ask you to do that, but let us know what's going on. We'd love to share that with everybody that watches the show. It just kind of brings us all closer. And that's the whole point of the show, is to pull us all together. So you can also send photos if you have them to info, info @playcore.com, and just have the subject link good news to share so we know what you're sending. So go ahead and scan that survey code if you want to do that right now. If not, it'll come in a follow-up email that comes. But we know there's a lot of folks out there anxious and excited to share their feedback with us right away. The other thing we wanted to let you know is join us this on Thursday, June 10th. So June is the next show at 1 p.m. Eastern. Always at 1 p.m. Eastern. And that one is going to be titled Park and Rec, Making Your Case. And this is going to be a really interesting panel. This is going to be city or county managers and or deputies that used to be directors. So really cool insight there for folks. And Jody, I am just thrilled that you've put this panel together. It's going to be a great show.
Well, it is, Anne-Marie. And, you know, we were getting requests from someone over and over. A couple of people were really saying, hey, give me some guidance on how to address our administration's higher up officials and public officials. So we are addressing that. We have already 2 of the 3 panelists that we're working with. And Sarah Hensley, many of you know her from our field. My goodness, she was the director of several departments, but Phoenix, City of Austin. She is now, I talked to her the other day, and she is now the interim city manager for Denton, Texas. And I don't think she was looking to do that. She really wanted to be deputy city manager. But Sarah's going to join us. And then also, many of you know Joe Abel. And Joe, again, has been a director in many departments in Florida. And he was director of Seminole County Parks and Recreation. And lo and behold, he said out of the clear blue, now he's the deputy county manager. And so you have that. And then, you know, you're just going to have to hold tight on the third one because they're checking schedules right now. But you know what? Again, that just shows, you know, our fellow colleagues, we're sticking together. And these 2 colleagues already said, I will do anything to help our fellow colleagues in Parks and Recreation. So this is really, and you know what? It's all levels of our organizations that will learn from this, because you know what? Some of our most important ambassadors in our departments are on the front lines. They need to be listening to these public officials. They need to be listening to our fellow past directors that are now in that manager's office. Hey, it's all about growth and education and sharing and just getting better. So anyway, I just share that. And then finally, I want to say, you know, everybody, NRPA's registration is open for the National Convention in Nashville. And oh my gosh.
Gonna sell out like a hot rock concert.
Oh my gosh, they are ready to go in there. And you can be virtual or in person. I know there's limitations on how many, but boy, I hope you all will engage in this. This next convention is going to be special, and it's going to be amazing. Yeah. And so I shout that out. And then Anne Marie, I know you feel the same way. We've talked about this. From the heart, these 3 panelists exude the excellence in our field. When you see panelists on here, they've gone through quite a vetting to be on the show, because again, you have been through the litmus test of challenges and being able to address what we need to do in our field and actually set the trend of where we all need to be. So I want to thank you. I know I'm speaking for Anne Marie. Yep. You know, we appreciate you so much.
We do. We had one more question that I want to be able to answer. Ashley said, what city did the Imagination Passport? And that was actually Prince George County in Maryland. So if you go to pgparks.com, you can see more about that. And then, as I said, for the Inclusive Playground, go to Facebook and look up GSO Parks and Rec. Check out their videos and give them a like while you're there. And I don't know how many people know this, but NRPA just raised the limit of people that are going to be allowed to go live. So
yes.
1,000 now. So we're super excited about that.
Awesome.
Guys. All right. Well, that is it. That's all we have time for today. And thank you again. Thank you to our panel. You guys are rock stars. We know you are so busy, and we love the fact that you took the time to be with us all today. So thank you so very much. Thanks again to our audience. Jody, as always, also a rock star. So happy to do this show with you.
Thank you. You too.
We will see you guys next time. So thank you, and have a great rest of the month.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.